I want to know how to actually play a casual game of Magic the Gathering on Gathering Magic Arena, The Gathering, the sequel, A Princess's Story. But in order to do that, I need to know why my current games of Magic the Gathering on Arena are not casual, or at least why they're not as casual as you or I might like them to be. Now, tell me, have you just come home from work, legs aching, belly beerless, synthetic dopamine receptors pinging a new high score from listening to your Spotify playlist titled The Soothing Sounds of an M1 Grand Reloading on Repeat ASMR, and now you're ready to play some Magic from the comfort of your own home, only to immediately place in a match with Nissa who shakes the club? You rub your eyes and readjust your dad glasses, only to realize the same truth we're all experiencing. You're about to feel the heat. Now, unless you're like some of my friends who come home to play City Skylines because it's less stressful from their job, you psychopath, you might think like the rest of us pooling masses that are on Steam discussion threads, this game is rigged. You lost even before you started. Cat deck fun, kitty go meow. I want to start with the basics, and that starts with you. It's no secret that MTG Arena has a few, let's say, unique tricks to keep things a fair go. MTGA Zone has an article by Heffalump detailing the inner workings of such system. But why is this important to know? Well, that's because whilst you might think you suck, I say you might have been playing too well. Let me explain. Your skill as a Magic player in casual formats like Brawl are not consistent because the game forces your win rate to look as close to 50-50 as possible. Now, this seems to be either loved or hated, so devil's advocate, let's be in the middle. On one side, you don't get a good sense of your skills against what is currently being played, in that every other game is going to be one that specifically counters your deck. Now, it is possible to know your counters and try counter the counter, whilst deck building, however, I suspect the matches you will face will end up rather the same. And that's okay, but why? Well, our play circuit is like most mammals. If we look at Jay Panksepp's research on social behavior in rats, we learn that similarly to us, if you're willing to understand the correlation between humans and animals, that as long as we win 30% of the time in a game we consented to, and more so initiated, then we're likely to continue to play. Now, that doesn't mean you won't see those complaining about their lower win rates, but what it means is that the 50-50 win rate average being the goal of MTG Arena, well, you're within the space that looks like it's trying its best to facilitate a returnable environment. On the flip side, it means you aren't overwinning more than 70% of the time, which would also lead to dissatisfaction for the challenger, that's you who now thinks the game is too easy, and the challenged, who is consistently being beaten. I say this knowing that unlike the rat experiment, we are faced against different people rather than the same big or small rat. This is evident if you are consistently playing with a friend group that plays paper Magic. I don't have a word for the dynamic between facing against multiple people online and those you play with regularly, but it does feel different within regards of winning and losing. Steam threads love this topic. This user posted, you'll get matched against decks that are counters to yours in order to get as close to 50% win-loss rate as possible. Your first hand before you mulligan will be weighted to have 2/3 lands, and most hands outside that will be discarded by the algorithm before you see it. And your deck will be sorted to prefer a 50% win-loss rate until it's shuffled mid-match. So if you know that your gaming session is going to run close to 50-50, then how does that breach the idea of casual play? Well, what interested me is how much I have to lock in depending on your deck weight to keep that 50-50 consistent. If your deck weight is high, would it stand to reason that you would be matched against higher functioning decks that require more brain power to play against? Well, I think so. So what I believe I'm trying to say is, if you want a casual game, does that mean the best possible avenue is making a low weight dummy deck? Well, I ran some tests with this spreadsheet, a document created to calculate your deck weight by exporting your deck from Arena. Now, this one specifically is for Brawl. What I found actually didn't surprise me. Prior to taking down my total deck weights, I had noted what decks, all Brawl by the way, casual format, I enjoyed playing the most, as they felt like they came up against less how do I say, only I get to play Magic decks. So the title for this is Top Decks with Fair, subjective, more fun, again, subjective, counter decks. And well, what do you know? The higher the deck weight, the less fun, again, that's subjective, decks that I faced. Now, don't get me wrong, my favorite deck here to play is Kambal, but that's overall. If I want a casual game, I will insta-lock Emoteep in a heartbeat. Now, does this mean that less weighted decks are often more casual? Well, potentially, at least at face value. That might not be your cup of tea, but I thought understanding this might prevent you from watching your favorite YouTuber and straight up copy pasting their deck, spending all your mythic cards, and wondering why each game feels straight up unplayable. Even then though, you still have the system in your favor to try lift your win ratio close to 50-50. But I think I'd rather play an easier, low-weighted deck that matched my skill level with other decks that I enjoy playing against, win or lose, rather than having an overpower 2000 weighted deck where the client throws me free wins or possibly bots to play against just to give me a chance. Now, I couldn't find a solid take on whether all these mechanics are used in the ranked or draft system. From what I've read, I do see more posts leaning towards a no, it's more based on skill. I'd highly advise researching yourself so you know what you're getting into. It's also worth mentioning that since deck weighting is public information, you might find exploiters crafting decks that fall under a limit but still house some high weight powerhouses. For me, just knowing that my games will be adjusted to keep my limitless power in check is enough to cool off the kettle that starts boiling in my brain when someone plays their second I get to take more turns card, as I know that the system is bigger than I can conceptualize, fixing hundreds of people's games to be as equal as possible. It makes it less personal, maybe. You know, am I that bad, or am I really being put against so many counter decks? See, that for me turns into, oh, sure, maybe a past win streak or current win streak is being put into check. Or maybe the last 4 plays conceded, and now the game thinks I'm an incredible player that needs to be put back in line. Either way, I know now that if I want to play casually, I need to build my decks casually. The only other solution is getting better at the game, and I'm not doing that.